Welcome to this explainer. I am so glad you're here today, because we're going to be diving into something that honestly, fundamentally, changes how we look at our lives, our careers, literally our whole potential. For way too long, a lot of us have just been stuck operating under this totally outdated set of rules. We've inherited these old fears from the industrial age about getting older, retiring, somehow becoming obsolete. But today, we're tossing that script right out the window. We're talking about shifting our mindset away from those old, rigid fears and just opening our eyes to the absolute limitless opportunities of the information age. By the time we wrap up here, I guarantee you're going to see your own potential in a completely new, totally empowering light.
Section 1. Welcome to the new frontier. Okay, let's dive right into exactly how we got here.
Back in 1994, the business writer John Huey pointed out this reality in Fortune magazine that is just mind-blowing. Think about this. You go to the store, you buy one of those cheap little musical happy birthday greeting cards, and when you eventually throw it in the trash, you are literally throwing away more computing power than existed on the entire planet before 1950. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. That kind of massive leap, it isn't just about us having faster gadgets. It is the actual catalyst that completely changed how society values us.
Which brings us to our next section, the old employment paradigm.
So, the industrial age was this era that it made us a bit less adventurous, right? It promised lifelong employment, fixed routines, the whole 9 yards. But the really tragic flaw there was that at some totally arbitrary retirement age, society basically just deemed you useless. You suddenly became dependent. Now contrast that with the information age. Because of that insane explosion of computing power we just talked about, employers today, they do not care about a static 30-year job history. They just don't. Your current capabilities, what you can actually do right now, that is the only currency that matters.
Moving right along to Section 3, the return of usefulness. And there's actually a fantastic irony to all this modern tech. I really want you to try and embrace what we call the frontier mindset. Basically, this is a way of living that kind of harks back to the early days of Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett. Back in that era, individuals were honored purely for their practical usefulness. Think about it. If you're living out on the rugged frontier, you're farming, you're cooking, you're hunting, and you turn 65, it wouldn't even cross anyone's mind to ask you to retire. Your age, your status, completely irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was, can you contribute? And the crazy thing is, we've finally circled right back to those days. We are back to honoring actual usefulness over some arbitrary number on a birth certificate.
Let's look at a modern hypothetical here. Say you are 70 years old, you speak fluent Chinese, you know software inside and out, and you have this massive zest for success. How on earth can anyone afford to ignore you? The reality is, no smart company can. If a business is desperately trying to break into the Chinese market to sell its software, and you've got those exact skills right now, your age means absolutely nothing. Your past job titles? Meaningless. Your current usefulness is sky high, and let me tell you, the market will absolutely reward that.
So that leads us right into Section 4, imagination as the ultimate asset. If physical age and your work history don't really matter anymore, what do modern companies actually care about?
Well, consider this quote from Bill Gates. He said, "Our company has only one asset, human imagination." And wow, this just brilliantly illustrates the core truth of this whole new frontier. Take a company like Microsoft. If you were to somehow take away all of their physical buildings, the real estate, the office hardware, the big servers, basically anything you could physically touch, where would the company actually be? It would be almost exactly where it is right now. Why? Because in today's world, a company's true value isn't tied up in its physical possessions. It's in the thinking. It's literally in the human imagination and the capability of the people who work there.
Which brings us to our final section, your blueprint for lifelong growth. And honestly, this shift we've been talking about is fantastic news for you.
Why is it fantastic? Because it means your usefulness is entirely in your own hands. You don't have to sit around waiting for some big institution to validate you. There are direct, actionable things you can do right now to cultivate your value and absolutely thrive in the information age. You can study computers and tech. You can learn a foreign language, or maybe really dig in and deeply understand a foreign market. Become an expert in a completely different culture. But above all else, just keep learning new things. Every single time you add one of these skills to your toolbox, you are actively increasing your own value, completely independent of how old you are or where you came from.
To really anchor this mindset, I want to share this incredible credo from the legendary basketball coach John Wooden. He said, "Learn as if you were to live forever. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Just wow, that is so powerful, right? It perfectly captures the exact mindset you need to navigate this new technological frontier. If you're constantly learning, as if you literally have infinite time, you are always going to be refreshing your usefulness. You will never, ever become obsolete.
So let's bring this all together. Look at the past, that old, rigid industrial age. Your employability depended on things that were mostly totally outside of your control. Your past job history, maybe what fancy school you went to, family connections, accumulated seniority, all that stuff. But in the present, it depends on exactly one thing, your current skills. And guess what? Those are 100% under your control. We don't have to look toward our later years feeling nervous about the proverbial wolves at our door anymore. As long as we're committed to lifelong growth, we can be exactly as useful to the world as we are motivated to be. The more we learn about the future, the more motivated we get to be a valuable part of it.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought, kind of a challenge, really. What new skill will you learn today to ensure you remain an unstoppable, totally valuable part of the future? Remember, the frontier is wide open. The rules have finally changed in your favor, and your imagination is absolutely your greatest asset. It's time to step up and take control of your lifelong growth. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, guys. Now get out there and start learning.